There are 15 apps that can help your trip to Italy go smoother. Some of them you probably already have, but you might not be using them in the best way that will really help you in Italy. And some of them are probably new to you. One of them solves a problem you'll have dozens of times during your trip to Italy. You're standing in front of something interesting and you have no idea what it is, and there's no one there to ask. And another one solves a problem that you may have your first morning in Italy but never thought to prepare for. 15 apps plus 5 bonus. Let's go! Andiamo! Google Maps. I'm sure it's not a surprise to find this on the list, but there are a couple of ways to specifically use it in Italy that most people don't set up. And there's one thing you should never rely on it for. The first thing you may not be doing is downloading maps for offline use. That way the navigation on your phone will work even if there's not a good data signal. The second use is saved lists. You can set up categories for the things you'd like to visit. Maybe churches, maybe museums, maybe restaurants. And then it'll be on your phone and you can access it and go quickly there, or even look and just see what's right around you at any time. Now here's the warning. Don't rely on Google Maps or actually any other app to keep you out of the ZTLs, the limited traffic zones in the center of most Italian cities, all of them of any size, but most of them even of medium size. What you'd want to do if you need to drive in the center is be very careful and watch the signs, or look up online on the city's official website what the boundaries of their ZTL are. Going into a ZTL can mean fines of over €100, and you don't want that nasty surprise after you get home. If you're using Google Translate right now, you're probably typing things into it to get a translation. But there are 2 ways to use it that most people never try, and they're even more valuable in Italy than anything you'd type in. The first thing is you can point your camera at anything with text. A placard at a museum or a church, a menu, some other sign. And it will show you right there, it overlays the text on the plaque with the English translation. No looking up words needed. The second use is live translate. You speak in English, it gives a message in Italian to the person you're trying to talk to. They speak in Italian, and it translates for you back into English. So it's really an interpreter in your pocket. Now this one requires a data connection while you're using it. Now for both of these, what you want to do is download the Italian dictionary before you leave home, because that will make, well, it makes these work, but it'll certainly make them work more smoothly than having to rely on an internet connection active all the time. WhatsApp is huge in Europe, but almost unknown in the US. It's a must-have app for Italy. At first glance, it looks like it's just a texting app, but it is that, but it's a lot more than that. And it's really the way Italians communicate. Hotels, restaurants, tour operators, drivers, they may not check their email for a message or even answer their phone. They rely on WhatsApp. So it's really as normal as using texting here. WhatsApp is free. It's free to download and it's free to use over an internet connection. It doesn't use your phone plan. You can make voice calls and text and video calls. It's really a complete communication solution. Set it up before you leave home and have your friends and family do it too. Then you can communicate with them overseas without expensive international telephone calls. Now there's a recent feature to WhatsApp that's great, which is a translation feature. If you were to get a message in Italian from an Airbnb or from a restaurant, if you hold your finger on it, you'll get a translate option. You'll translate it into English. Then what you can do is the reverse. You write a message in English, press on it, translate it, it puts it in Italian, and you can send it back. It's really cool and it works pretty well. This is such an important tool, important app, that we made a whole video about it. We'll show you at the end of the video a couple of ways that you can easily get our video. If you're visiting Italy's major cities and you're not doing it by train, you're doing it wrong. Flying just doesn't make sense. By the time you get out of town to the airport and go through security and wait, and then get to your destination and get back into town, you've wasted any of the time you might save by taking a flight over a train. And a train will just drop you right in the city center, and the fares are very affordable. and don't even think about driving into a major Italian city. Italy has two primary train operators. Trenitalia, which is the national operator, and they run the local trains, high-speed trains, regional trains, trains that connect to France and to other countries. And then there's Italo, which runs only high-speed trains between the major cities in Italy. So, because there's two companies, you really need two apps. Now, they're pretty much the same, the two companies, Trenitalia and Italo, except there are places you have to use Trenitalia to get to. But Italo is my personal preference. The quality of the service is good, and it's usually a little bit cheaper. So the thing to do is to check both Trenitalia and Italo before you book. And do the booking directly online through these apps. That way you have the ticket on your phone, and you've got a way to get customer service if something goes wrong during your trip. Now, some people will recommend the Trainline app because that lets you look up the journey, compare Trenitalia and Italo in one place, and then buy the ticket. Now, there's a booking fee, and then it does introduce this risk of, hey, that's not my problem because you didn't buy the ticket from me. Hi, I'm Ed from Our Big Italian Adventure. We make videos helping people get the most out of their trips to Italy. Now, if you're a regular viewer, you're probably wondering where Anne is. She's off traveling, in fact, in Spain. So I'm here making a couple of videos on my own, and I hope they're still interesting and valuable without her. I know they won't be nearly as good. Taxis and ride shares work quite differently in Italy than they do at home. And if you don't understand how they work going in, it's probably going to frustrate you and it may cost you. First, as far as taxis, you can't hail a cab on the street. You need to go to an official taxi stand or contact one on the phone or through an app. And don't think Uber is the backup for that. Uber in Italy is totally different. It's not your neighbor driving a car. These are professional licensed drivers driving these big black, not necessarily limos, but big black cars. And they can't just drive around waiting for a fare in the area. There are particular places that they have to wait. So you might have to wait a long time for them to get to you. So it's expensive and not necessarily particularly convenient. The primary app to know is IT Taxi. It works in 87 cities across Italy, and there's no booking fee. Now, there's also Free Now and App Taxi, which cover the major cities. It's a different set. Nobody covers everything. I don't even think IT Taxi is in every city. So it's good to have all three of these apps on your phone, and then you're covered. All three of these work essentially the same way. You book through the app, you pay through the app, you don't need to speak any Italian. Now, Venice, it's its own special case. Because there aren't any streets, the only way to get around is on the water. The most common way is to use their bus system, which is water buses called Vaporetto, as a water bus. Or you can take a private water taxi, which is a motorboat, or of course you could take a gondola. You're going to use Google Maps constantly while you're in Italy. But if part of your journey is navigating public transportation, figuring out the metro stop, where do you get on the tram, how long is the trip on the tram, when I'm on it right now, how many stops until mine, there's an app that does a better job of that. That's called City Mapper. So it shows those public transportation options, the metro, the trams, the buses. It will combine those with walking to give you the most time-effective way to get to where you're going. It shows you the total fare, real-time departures, and gives you some directions to how you get to your stop. Now, here's something good to know. This is based on our experience using this in Milan. We found that the best way to use it, to use city maps to identify where the stop was. Then use Google Maps to give you the walking directions to that spot. And then use City Mapper to help you when you're on the tram, and then go back to Google Maps when you get off. The walking directions in City Mapper are a bit difficult to follow. So away from public transit, Google Maps is your tool. City Mapper is really just, it's not a replacement, it's just a specialized tool that you can use. When you're getting around Italy, particularly to some of the smaller towns, don't assume that the train is always the best option. There may be a direct bus that will save you time and money, but the problem is, how do you find out about it? That's where Rome to Rio comes in. What you do is you type in your origin and your destination, and it shows you the options. You can go by train, and this is how long it takes. You can go by bus, here how long it takes. You can take a taxi. And it also gives you estimated prices for all of those things. But the key thing, particularly for buses, is it gives you the name of the operator of the bus, the company, because then you can go directly to their site and look up the schedule, because sometimes the schedules that Rome to Rio offers aren't really always up to date. So if you wanted to go to Rome to a place like Siena, you can do it by connecting on the train, but as I remember, it's like a 4-hour trip. There's a direct bus in 2 hours. So what you do is you look that up, you identify the companies, you go to the company's website, and you book your tickets. And you're all set for a much more efficient and inexpensive trip to Siena. So you're using Rome to Rio to discover your options. It's really the first question, it's not your final answer. By the time you leave for Italy, you're going to have a lot of things to keep track of. Flights, trains, hotels, museum reservations. I used to manage all that in a Google Doc that I shared with Anne so we could both know what's going on. I now use the app Wanderlog because it does everything a Google Doc can do and a lot more in the specialized travel area. Generally, it works like this. You set up a trip. You say, I'm going from July the 1st through the 17th, and I'm going to be in Rome from July the 3rd until the 7th, and you build out your trip that way. And then you can either put in the reservations that you have manually, or this is really cool, you can email them to Wanderlog. And for many things, hotels in particular, and flights and train tickets, it will look at that confirmation email and fill in the information in your itinerary, the dates, the times, the number of the train, your confirmation number, actually the price you paid for the ticket. All that stuff goes in there automatically. Now, if it's not that, or it's something that it doesn't import, you can import the information manually. Now, if you're traveling with someone, this is really good. You can both put, or your whole group can put things into Wanderlog, and then everybody has an updated itinerary with everything that has been booked. And it can also do expense tracking. So if at the end of the trip you need to split some of the expenses, it will help you do that. It'll total up the amounts and then figure out what is the fewest amount of interperson transfers to get the whole thing resolved. Now, there are two versions. There's a free version that covers most of what I've talked about so far. And then there's a paid version. It adds some offline use, so you don't need the internet when you're walking around and want to look at your phone. An automatic routing service that I don't find very useful. But what I do find really useful is, in addition to forwarding emails to it, I can upload documents. So I can upload my tickets to Wanderlog, and then I have everything there with me in one place. So I use the paid version now, and I wouldn't go back. I think it's perfectly valuable, but depending on where you get it and when, it costs some place between $30 and $50 a year. For guided experiences in Italy, cooking classes, food tours, winery visits, day trips in the country, Get Your Guide is the app you want to have. You can search by location and dates and see just what's available when you'll be in the area. Now, it's best for experiences when a guide would really be valuable, or if you feel like you'd like to have a guide. If you just want to visit the Uffizi Gallery, for instance, just go directly to their site and book the ticket. It'll be a lot cheaper than a ticket you'd book through Get Your Guide. But of course, you may want a guided tour of the Uffizi, and then in that case, Get Your Guide is a perfectly good place to get it. Now, in talking about museum tickets, there's one thing that's really good to know, which is a lot of sites offer skip the line tickets. That's really a marketing ploy. There really isn't such a thing. Anytime you get a ticket in advance, it's got a timed entry slot on it. So what that means is you're likely to not wait very long when you show up at that time, but it's not a special ticket in any way. And that's what you would get by booking directly with the Uffizi site in my example, as a ticket for Tuesday, August 3rd at 10 in the morning. Now, the official site will always be the cheapest place to get the tickets, but there's times when it's sold out for the time you really want to or need to do something. Anne wanted to climb the Dome in Florence on a day where there was no availability. So we went to Get Your Guide, and she was able to buy a Dome climb ticket. A guide didn't come with her, and it cost 2 or 3 times what it would have from the official Duomo site, but she was able to get in and do what she wanted to do at that time. So it's good for that too, because it's a reputable operator. You'll get your ticket. It's just know what you're really paying for. And now there's an alternative to Get Your Guide called Viator, which is pretty similar. They do have some different inventory and different offerings, so you might want to check them too. Get Your Guide is great for finding a guided tour. With Locals is different. It's about finding a person to be your tour guide. What you do on their site is you can pick the kind of thing in general that you'd like to do, and then browse through the guides that offer that and read about their background and their reviews, and then you can choose the one whose interests seem to match most with what you'd like to do. Now, there'll be a proposed, we're going to do this on our tour. But what's great about with Locals is you could customize that. This is private for you or your group. So there's no, we have to stop here, we have to be here at this time. That's all what the guide sets up once you've agreed on what you're doing. So because of this customization, it's really at the time that you can do it. It's not that Get Your Guide has a tour that's at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. This usually you can talk to the guide and you can say, well, I'm available anytime after 2 on Tuesday. So you set up, 5 o'clock would be best for me, right before dinner, whatever. Now, Anne and I have used it several times in a variety of cities. And one really good tour we had was a food tour in Naples, which is a great eating city. And we really enjoyed the tour, and we still talk about it as a high point of that whole trip. If you want a guided experience without a guide, the Rick Steves Audio Europe app is what you want. Now, let me say at the top, this is free. A lot of people assume once they hear the value that it delivers that it must cost something. One thing it offers is self-guided audio tours of major cities like Florence and Rome and Pompeii and Assisi. So you just pop in your earbuds and walk along at your own pace. You can stop and it'll tell you about a building, and then you stop and you go to the next place that he's pointed out as a stop. Also in the app, there are podcast episodes about Italian culture. Food, wine, history. So that's good listening when you're on the plane to Italy or when you're on the train between cities. You could learn some very interesting things. Now, one tour that stands out for everyone who's tried it is in Venice. There's a Grand Canal tour that starts at the Santa Lucia train station. You get on the water bus, the Vaporetto number 1, on the way to San Marco, the main piazza in Venice. And as you go along, the narration is timed with what you're passing. So this building on your right is, and the narration tells you what it is. I think maybe occasionally if you were at a stop longer than was expected, you might have to start and stop it. But the reviews of this are wonderful, and so it apparently works really well. So even if you're visiting just 1 or 2 of these cities on this list, or maybe none of them, because you get the cultural information, this is really an app worth having. You want the dedicated Google app on your phone. It's a search engine shortcut, but what really makes it special is the Google Lens feature. You tap the camera icon in the search bar and point it at anything, a monument, a church, a wine bottle, what you're eating, and it will identify it and tell you about it. It's really cool. This is the one I talked about at the beginning. When you're standing in front of something, you can't identify it and you'd like to know, who is this on this statue? Put it in Google Lens and it'll tell you right away and give you the history and why that's an important person. Can be really valuable if you're interested in learning more about the things around you. Now, it's good to know you're not taking a photo here. You don't need to be filling your camera roll up with things you don't want photos of. It just works in real time. And it also works in the Chrome app on your phone if you tap the same icon that's in the search bar. Now, there's a second way to use Google Lens that we'll talk about later in the video, connected to Google Photos, that can also help you identify things that you've, in this case, taken a picture of, because it was pretty, but now we're looking back and wondering, what was this thing? The fork is the dominant restaurant reservation platform in Italy. You can sort of think of it as OpenTable is in the US. Now, you may come across this when you search online for a restaurant and click their reservation link. Many restaurants use this as their reservation system, so you may just end up there. You can also use it proactively, where you can put in the sort of cuisine you want, the time and the day you'd like to eat, the neighborhood you'd like to eat in, and it'll give you some options. Now, often, for some of the restaurants at certain times of day, it will show that some of them are offering a discount. Now, they're offering this discount because they'd like to fill up, say, those early dinner times. It doesn't mean that the restaurant's not good. It just means that they're trying to, fill some seats that aren't going to be filled otherwise. So don't be afraid of the restaurant because the fork shows you a discount. Now, to tie back to what we said before, not every restaurant in Italy uses this, so WhatsApp can still be your go-to tool for making restaurant reservations. The weather app on your phone may let you down in Italy. The climate is variable by small area because of the valleys and the mountains and everything else, and your app may not take that into account. There are some special apps made just for Italy that solve this problem. Il Meteo and 3B Meteo. Now, Il Meteo has a really clean user interface and has good temperature forecasts and a 14-day look forward period. But what's really good about it is that it tells you the probability of this being right. Not the chance it's going to rain, but how certain does their model feel is that's actually going to happen that day. They're giving you the most likely, saying there's a 30% chance of rain, but maybe they'll tell you there's a 10% chance that they think they've really got it right on that day. Now, the other app, 3B Meteo, is got a cluttered and sort of not very user-friendly interface. But where it comes in is in precipitation forecasts. Italians swear by it for that, and they say it's better than Il Meteo for telling you when it's going to rain. So the usage here of these two is use Il Meteo as your day-to-day weather app, but have 3B Meteo around for those days when a precipitation forecast is really important. Finding a public bathroom in Italy can be difficult, but we have an app for that. Flush. Italy has far more public toilets than the US today, and that's not necessarily bad. It usually means that they're clean, but you do need to have coins, or some of them take credit cards, but coins work everywhere, and you got to be able to find them. Flush will show you nearby restrooms, whether they're free or paid, and give you directions to get there. It has good coverage across Italy, even in some smaller towns. I know near where our house is in central Italy, there's a town of about 3,000 people, and I know that their public washroom is in Flush. Now, if you'd prefer a different kind of restroom, you can't find one on Flush, or you don't have enough time to get to it on Flush, here's what you do. You walk into any bar, a coffee bar is what that is in Italy, and you can use their restroom. I think they have to let you use it. But to be polite, and what we always do, is we buy a cup of coffee or a bottle of water, or those two cost about €1. So anything inexpensive, it just seems like it's the polite thing to do, rather than just walking in as a non-customer and using the bathroom and walking out. Believe it or not, we have a full video about finding bathrooms in Italy. At the end of the video, I'll show you how to get to that one as well. Most of the apps on this list require a live data connection. Now, one way to get that is to use your US cellular plan through AT&T or Verizon. And once you've set up their international day plan, they'll charge you $12 a day for every day you use the phone. So on a 2 to 3 week trip, that adds up to a lot, $150 or more. Airlo is how you still get good data connection and avoid that high price. Airlo is an app through which you buy a data-only eSIM. It's not a physical card, so there's not anything to swap out. You just install it through a QR or other code that they send to you in email after you've bought your card. Do the installation at home before your trip. The clock on the amount of time you've bought doesn't start until you use it. So what you do is when you've landed, while you're taxiing in, when you're getting off the plane, just turn it on and you'll be connected. And you can't make phone calls on it, but you can use WhatsApp. So you really are connected. Now, there are a variety of plans that they offer depending on how long you're going to stay and how much data you think you're going to use. But for most people, you can get 30 days of data for $25 to $30. So it's much less inexpensive than relying on your US plan, and the quality of it is very good. Now, one critical thing to check before you try to go down this road, your phone needs to use an eSIM. Now, most phones in the last 4 years or so, maybe longer, are eSIM capable or are eSIM only, like my current phone. So that shouldn't be a problem for most people, but make sure, because you don't want to go and buy one of these and then find out you can't install it on your phone because the eSIM just doesn't work. When you're in a restaurant looking at the menu, or you're in a store looking at something to buy, the prices in euro may not automatically register in your brain with how much is this really. For this reason, a lot of people feel they want a currency converter app. The good news is you may not need a specialized app at all. Now, if you're on an iPhone, on iOS, open up the calculator that comes with it, and in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a button. If you click on that, and it will convert between different currencies. So you set it euros and dollars, and it'll stay on euros and dollars the next time that you open it. And you can put in, okay, this is 175 euro, what is that in dollars? Oh, that's more than I thought. So you decide maybe you're not gonna buy it. Or at least you know, okay, that I wasn't really counting on this being that much. Now, on Android, the calculator doesn't do that. But what you can do is use the Google app and go in and talk to it. Say, how much is 175 euro in dollars? And it will give you the answer and talk back to you. So really, there's no reason to have a specialized app for this. You've already got something on your phone that will do it. Bounce solves one of the problems I mentioned at the very beginning. And this is one that catches first-time visitors because they just aren't aware of it and haven't thought about it. Here's the scenario. You've just arrived in Rome on an overnight flight from the US. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. And you look and you can't get in your Airbnb till 3. And you got suitcases and backpacks. But you'd like to go to lunch. You'd like to walk around a little bit. What do you do? Well, that's where Bounce comes in. It's a network of local cafes and bars and shops and hotels that will store your luggage for you for a few hours, or longer than that if you'd like, at an inexpensive rate. Now, it's put in a special room, locked, and you get $10,000 of insurance free with every booking that you set up. So what you do through the app is you find a location convenient to either where you're going to be arriving in town or near your Airbnb, book it, and you'll have the code on your phone then to show them that you've got a booking there, and they'll take your bags to store. And this can help during your trip too. 4 days after you arrive in Rome, you're going to Florence. And your train to Florence arrives there at 10 in the morning. And now we got this problem again. And on your final day, if you happen to be leaving in the evening, you could give the stuff to a Bounce location in the morning and then pick it up before you need to go to the airport or the train station. A couple of practical points. The hours of these shops are fixed. So if it says it closes at 7, don't show up at 7:15 and hope to get your bags. They're stuck there until tomorrow morning. And the other thing is, in high demand areas, which is particularly near train stations, you want to book this early. But there's a lot of locations, so I'm sure you can find some place that will take your bags off your hands. This one is a real time saver on the way home, and you've probably never heard of it. It's called Mobile Passport Control. Now, this isn't a third-party app. This is an official US government app that US citizens can use to speed your way through the immigration and customs process. What you do at the airport is fill in your information, get your QR code, and then get in the dedicated mobile passport control line. Now, before you've even left on your trip, or certainly before you've even gotten on the plane, although you can do it later, you should set it up. because it needs some information about your passport and some other things. And you can actually put 12 people on any one phone, so you can handle your family or your group all in one place. You can't actually start the declaration until you're at the airport. So you can do it when you're on the plane still, or walking toward the immigration and customs area. In fact, on a recent trip of ours, we came back and we've got global entry, which goes very fast. Usually, like, you almost don't stop while you're walking through. But it was closed because of the government shutdown. So I'd heard of mobile passport control, but never had a reason to use it. Downloaded it, sort of stood around for a couple minutes, set it up, got in the special line, and went through. Probably took me less than 10 minutes while there's a long line of hundreds of people standing off to my left. Now, this can be really valuable if after your first arrival in the US, you're connecting someplace. Because one place that can be a real problem is how long does it take you to get through that immigration line before you can even go and get your bags. And since you have to do this process at your first airport in the US, you can't wait until you've landed in Chicago and then you're connecting to Denver. You can't do it in Denver, you have to do it in Chicago. That connection time savings is really important. The photos you bring back from your trip to Italy will probably be one of your most treasured possessions from the trip. Now, Google Photos is an app that will back up your camera roll to the Google Cloud. So if your phone were to get lost or stolen, and unfortunately it does happen, you wouldn't lose your pictures. Now, when you set it up, it captures everything that's already on your phone. Plus, it will upload everything new that comes in. It lets you create shared albums, say for a trip. So during the trip, you can be sharing photos with other people in your group or sharing photos with people back home. It makes everything very easy. The free allowance on this is 15 gigabytes, which will store quite a few photos, particularly because the default is that it does a little bit of compression of the image data. And it's an amount where, unless you are a professional photographer with a really good eye, you could never tell. But the file gets quite a bit smaller when it does that. So you can store more pictures in this 15 gigabytes. And if you wanted to store them original size, you can do that. You're probably just going to need to buy a larger cloud storage plan with more gigabytes. Also, it does search of your photos. So if you type in Duomo or sunset, it'll show you all the pictures that it identifies through its AI as being right for that sort of search. Now, to tie this back to what we said before, we talked about Google Lens. It is built in here too. So if you now get home from your trip and you say, oh, that was a really great church, and what was it? She says, I don't know. Well, I hit the Lens button in Google Photos and it says, oh, that was San Ambrogio and and oh yeah, that was from the 12th century. So it means that some of those things that you've seen and have been overwhelmed by the number of things, you can still identify them after you get home. I promised you an easy way to get to two of our other videos, the WhatsApp video and the bathroom video. You can get to them through links in the description below the video or by using this QR code. Also, if you're interested in this sort of content, why don't you watch one of the videos here? A presto!